Assalamualaikum and a very good day. I bid to Sirazif. Before I proceed with the presentation, let me introduce myself. My name is Nur Alia Majdina Binti Mansor. Currently, I am teaching at SK Betau, one of the indigenous schools in Pahang. So today I am going to explain and elaborate on Year 3 scheme of work that I prepared on Task 1. I had created a Year 3 scheme of work in my opinion, which would be appropriate and suitable for my student. There were several aspects to consider while constructing the SOW, and the first aspect is time allocation for the English lesson in my school. As for my schools, the 9 periods of English lessons were allocated per week. So if we divided the 9 periods with 5 skills, so each skill supposedly got 2 periods, except for one, and I have decided to give writing only 1 period per week. In compare with other, which is the listening and speaking, reading, and also language art, all those 4 skills got 2 periods of lesson per week. So let's take a look on the first listening and speaking skills. And since both of the skills were given on emphasis at this school, so I think that it is proper for me to give 2 periods for these skills. So I think nowadays there are a growing needs of fluency in English, not only in comprehension but also in language learning. So listening can provide much inputs and data to help learning English as foreign language, especially for my students. And for speaking skills, my student will have chances to attempt for real communication despite their limited proficiency in English. So which means that they can try and speak in English because I think this is a more better skill for them who are generally had lower proficiency in English. So by doing so, they can develop their communicative strategies and be able to engage in any form of interactions using English language. Next, reading. And we know that reading is the fundamentals in helping the students to find and convey information. Of course, it is an essential skills that can be developed at a very young age. So primary levels is the best age where they should learn how to read and comprehend and enjoy several types of text. So as they develop an understanding of the alphabetic principles, children can begin to process the letters and translate them into sounds and connect this information with a known meaning. So the ability to read actually does not develop naturally without careful planning and instruction. So the students need regular and active interaction with the textual materials and resources for them to be good at reading. Next is the language art. Language art actually did help a lot, especially to support the students for them to familiarize with the English language itself, because as we know, my students have a very minimal exposure to English language. So having 2 periods of language art per week did help them to become more comfortable in using English. So when they are used to listen to the English language, they doesn't feel that the language are somehow alien to them. So they can feel like comfortable conversing in English because they know that they are doing it the right way. And then now I'm going to explain on why I put the writing as 1 period per week and also the assessment as a mini project. So although writing skills actually one of the fundamental skills that they need to develop. So I think that instead of focusing too much on the writing English, I choose to focus on the technical aspect of writing. What I'm saying is that I focus more on the way they write than the content of the writing, because this technical aspect of writing can, like, it contribute to many things, like the child's ability to hold and use the pencils, and the ability to draw, write, copy, and color. It, in here, the student have no understanding of how to use the pencils before they come to school. So there are, especially in year 3, year 1, year 2, and year 3, they are struggling with understanding on how to use, and especially with the handwriting, they are very bad at it. So I'm trying to help them, especially on those technical aspects. So that's based on the SOW that I made. There is a mini project. This is actually a project assessment. It's a part of Baca program. And so I'll explain on more on this program on the next slide. My school did organize a Baca program since last year. So this program is organized by Panitia Bahasa Melayu with the aim to improve basic literacy in the students. So this program helped to enhance the literacy rate of reading and also writing. There will be a writing module for the students to complete. So during the first semester, we are hoping that the student can produce a neat handwriting with the correct and proper technical aspect. So this is why the assessment that I put for writing is usually a mini project. Now let's review the second aspect, which is the implementation of HOTS element in the scheme of work. If we take a look at the Bloom taxonomy, each level must be mastered before moving to the next higher levels. And of course, each level becomes more challenging as the student move up. So in Malaysian context, starting from applying, those are the higher order thinking skills. Applying, analyze, evaluate, and create, while remember and understand are lower order thinking skills. For my schools, especially for standard 1, year 3 students, I think that there is like 50% of HOTS for year 3, because they are still struggling with the basic literacy. So understand and remember levels is more suitable for them, and it's also important for them to really had a basic like base for this for them to actually move to the higher levels. Because I only put it 50% because this is what I plan for them, but depending on their levels, if they're somehow go beyond my expectations, so I think I can change the plan a bit and maybe added more applying levels, because I think that analyze, evaluate, and create are more suitable for the students in year 4, year 5, and also year 6. So by referring to the HOTS elements, while at schools, the level get higher as the age increase. And the most important thing to consider when implementing the HOTS element is the audience, which is the student themselves. So as a teacher, I think having a clear objective based on the student needs can assist the teacher in the basic course of designing the SOW. It helps with the creation of assessment, which in return can showcase the student ability to achieve the objective. So we can monitor the student progress throughout the learning process, because it is vital for us, the teachers, to know whether the student are able to reach the learning objective or not. And then furthermore, when we are assessing the student, we can help the teachers to realize that whether our teaching method should be adjusted or not. So what we need to do for the audience to fit in the HOTS element, first, I think that we need to establish or we need to know what are the prior knowledge that the student have. So we need to assess whether the student know any of the material or maybe the resources that we want to use. So what kind of experience do they have prior coming to the classroom? So by taking into the account all their valuable prior knowledge, I think it is more easier and simple for us to create an innovative lesson with a unique content suitable for the student. So it could be a content about what the student should learn based on their abilities. So actually this can also give the teachers the opportunity to get to know the student well. So, and we can adapt our teaching style and method to their ways of learning. So it is important to know what motivates our students, especially on their values and also their personality types. So by having those knowledge, we can also discover what kind of learners they are. When designing assessment, question or task, so there are things that we need to consider. For example, are the students ready to think for themselves about this yet? So if the answer is yes, they are ready to analyze, evaluate, and also create. But if not, have them do more remembering, understanding, and then applying. So in my case, I believe that they are not that capable of thinking for themselves and to actually have those high levels of thought elements. So I believe that this is what the best that I can do for my students, because Bloom taxonomy itself is a convenient way to describe the degree to which we want our student to understand and use certain concepts to demonstrate particular skills and to have their values, attitude, and interests affected. So it is critical that we determine the level of the student expertise that we are expecting our student to achieve, because this will determine which classroom assessment technique are the most appropriate for the course. Everything must be justified by the learner's readiness to cope with the cognitive and linguistic demands of English language. So once one level is acquired, one can move to the next. But if a teacher feels that the learners are still stuck at a level which need more like extensive practice, so the assessment or the classwork should stay at that levels. And I think it will be ethically wrong to move to any higher levels for the HOTS element just merely to hit the top of the Bloom taxonomy. So without considering the student situation at all. So we need to look at the audience, and based on that, we try to tailor the or cater the assessment to suit their needs. Now, let's take a look at the curriculum standard that I use for constructing this scheme of work for year 3. Currently, I'm using the document penjajaran curriculum for year 2021, and I realized that there are 3 types of content based on the document penjajaran, which are the kandungan asas, kandungan tambahan, and kandungan pelengkap. But as for me, most of the time, I just focus on the kandungan asas, since to me it is a minimal requirement for my students who are having a very low proficiency levels in English language. So I try to focus on kandungan asas because kandungan tambahan is also a good option, but I think that this SOW is adaptable, which means that I can change it according to my student's level. If I think that my student can go beyond than what I have planned, it's okay for me to move them to use maybe like kandungan tambahan or even kandungan pelengkap. But as for now, I try to focus more on kandungan asas only. So the last element that I consider is the material and also the resources for English lesson that is appropriate for the scheme of work for my students. Since most of my lessons is based on a textbook, so I'll be using the Get Smart Plus 3 as the main references for the syllabus and also to adapt it into the scheme of work. So when constructing the scheme of work for year 3, I did consider the syllabus, which is based on the Get Smart Plus 3 textbooks. So one of the things that I did take a look at is the modular approach, and there will be like module 1 until module 10 for year 3. So this approach is actually a very good approach because it kind of a trend in education that shift the traditional method of instruction to a more outcome-based learning paradigm. So modular approach, I think it is based on the principle of dividing the curriculum into small and discrete modules, or even units that are independent, non-sequential, and typically short in duration. This kind of instructions meets the needs of the students' learners more adequately than the traditional instructions. I think with the respect of the quality of the learning and also the content. Sometimes even for me, I purposely choose the modules that are related to the students so that they can learn better. It depends actually, but when I plan on the SOW, of course, I actually put it in sequence from module 1 until module 10. But during the implementation part, it depends on the topics in the modules and the surrounding of them, surrounding what happens around the students. I choose the module that can best suit what is happening around them at that time. So the SOW could be flexible, it's just a plan, but the way that it was implemented depending on the students. This is one thing that I like about modular approach. And the second one is the grammar. And of course, there is no direct teaching of grammar. As for grammar, I use indirect explicit grammar instructions, which favor inductions of the, or in other words, the learner's own discovery of the grammatical rules through tasks. So therefore, it doesn't involve me giving any grammatical explanation. So they learn it when they are like commonly seeing the words, or I don't have like teach them this is noun, this is a verb, this is how happening sentences. No, I don't. I just indirectly teach them so they can somehow they did manage to recognize certain grammar rules. So that kind of thing is a very good for me, because if I focus too much on grammar, I don't think it will be very hard for them. I think grammar is like math, so students need to understand the additions and multiplication facts. So without those, it will be difficult to learn more complex problems. So I don't want to go too deep with the grammar aspect, because it might make the student become unwilling, and some of them might get demotivated to learn a complex element. So I think for year 3, it is better for them to enjoy learning English first. So I just indirectly teach them English grammar. So the next one is the inquiry-based learning. So this one is what I'm trying to do is that I try to engage the student with inquiry-based learning. So the student will learn transferable skills which can reinforce initiative, or also like their own self-direction. The student will learn how to like ask questions, discuss topic, collaborate on assignments, and they can even cooperate and collaborate with each other to reach a conclusions of their learning. So when they are able to like exercise their autonomy, like this is student-centered learning. So they become more engaged. So indirectly can help to develop a passion for explorations and learning on higher levels. This is what I try to do, because I wanted to promote the higher order thinking skills. So by doing inquiry-based learning, it actually became a way for me to like promote more higher thinking levels for them. Next is the communicative elements, which focus on speaking and listening. The ability to communicate information accurately, clearly, and as intended, of course, is a vital life skills and something that should not be overlooked, especially for my students. And the crucial features of this communicative method is that it operates above the sentence levels. It happened with the real languages used in the real situations. It just doesn't only happen in the books. So this method aims to develop the capacity of the learners to communicate in the foreign language or the second language, which focus on repeating continuously until they are able to communicate well in the target language. So that the learners are able to practice the target language. So I wanted to see their communicative abilities in applying the language. As to me, applying the language is far more important for them than just to know the language. As for the conclusions, the scheme of work is actually a good plan, especially for teachers to properly have a schedule of what are going to be done throughout the year. But I believe that SOW also like a flexible, adaptable kind of plan because it can change. It is depending on the student and depending on the situations. uh, I think that was a good plan when it is mostly flexible, adaptable, especially for the students. I think that's all for my presentations. Thank you.